Hello and welcome to another episode of the Instant Impact Event Show. I'm Cheryl.
I'm CJ.
Welcome guys. It's been a little bit since we've done one of these shows, and we're ready
It's been a little while.
Get back into the swing of things. We're going to be coming out with them on a regular basis, so make sure you stay tuned for that. We're excited for a lot of the topics that we have.
Yeah, we have a lot of
coming
topics
up.
for you.
And
a lot of good ones.
today's topic is?
It's all about the details.
And so when we're talking on our show, we're always referring to events.
Right.
Sometimes, we're talking specifically about event things. Sometimes we're not. Details matter in events and in life, for sure. And yet, like you were saying earlier, a big and small, the details matter.
Yes. No matter how small, no matter how big.
So we want to dive more into what exactly are you looking for? What are the big details? What are the little details?
Right.
What are some of those things that get forgotten quite
They'll
often?
come up last minute.
And so we're just gonna kind of have a conversation, around that.
Everything's going to be about a conversation and just talking about it and going over small details.
And big, because a lot of times it's the big things that sometimes get overlooked.
Right.
Like, for instance, there was this. We're always looking at events. We're always not just our own.
Other people's events.
Other people's events. We always want to know, how can we improve? How can we do this better?
Right. What's their look? How's their lighting?
And we're always just curious, right? And so there was an event not too long ago.
About 6 months ago.
That we saw, and great event. Awesome,
They
awesome
showed
speakers.
the full setup, was a lot ahead of time.
Right, and there's a lot of build-up, just like there should be for events. And so, we're always looking at that, and we're always excited and cheering everybody on for, the events that they're having. Anytime a speaker gets up on stage and speaks, or someone puts together an event and brings people together, there's a lot of energy and synergy that goes around with that.
Right, and we look forward to it and want them to have an awesome event.
Right, and so we're normally looking to, who can we cheer on? How can we, what are they doing? What can we change? How can we, we're always looking for ideas that we can take back and that we can, tell you guys about, or that we can utilize in our own events.
Right.
Or, there's never, in events, it's always growing and changing and evolving.
Yes.
And that's something that excites us about events is, what you did
not the same.
a year ago should not be what you're doing now.
No.
As far as the look and the feel. And yet, the attention to detail always matters.
Yes, it does.
And so when we were looking, and I even showed you, I was like, okay, this.
And I didn't believe it.
It's beautiful. I mean, I love it. I love the aesthetic. I love the color. I love the branding.
The build-up.
The energy.
The build-up.
The music. All of that was on
great.
Point, right?
It was on point.
Yep.
Yes.
And we were like, oh, this is good. We're liking this.
Yes.
And then it came to, we got and it was being. They were showing clips, right?
Yes.
And it was also going to be on video, I believe, as well. And they did a pan.
It was the speaker. The speaker did a pan.
Yeah. So there was a pan of the room. When we say pan, it means you got to kind of see from back
Everything.
to front the whole look of it, right? And it was great until it wasn't. And that was like, you know how you go, the kids all the time, they're like, dun, dun, dun. It was kind of one of those moments, like, we're so excited.
I saw her face. I saw your face.
And then I was
she was like, come here now.
Oh, you got to see this.
Come here now.
And it's one of those things, to us, it's elementary, right? It's something that, because we've been doing this for so long, there's no way that would have gotten past our checks and our systems and our process, and when we're looking to make sure that we have all these things taken care of. For someone else, though, because it was sitting there nice and
it could have been
looking,
their first event also, because I haven't seen them at having their own events before.
I think they have. But also, you don't know.
Not as big.
Was it, and when I set it up what it was. So basically there was a stage, and on the stage, on either side of the stage were screens, and that was beautiful. And then
there were raised screens with no drape on the bottom. Right.
And then there was the seating, and there was like a VIP and stanchions, and it was that was all awesome. When it came to the pan, though, I saw the stage, and that was great. And then we panned over to where the screen was. Underneath the screen, instead of it being drape, which drape blocks off what's going on behind the screen, right? So you can only see what's going on in front of the screen.
Right, so I think there wasn't anything behind it, because I think it was a wall. That's why it was raised. And then they raised their projectors for front projection, right? Because if there was rear projection, you'd think they would have hid what we saw.
And yet they still didn't have drape. So I don't know if it mattered if it was front or rear, there was no drape.
Yes.
And so because there was no drape, there was like no wall, basically.
No.
A drape creates a wall, right?
Yes.
And normally what you do in front of the wall is one thing, and what you do behind the wall is something totally different.
And that's usually you hide all
Everything.
your cases, anything that is extra from load-in is behind the set, behind your drape.
That's when you're aesthetically looking at your event, you're putting all this time, effort, energy, money, resources in, and then instead of hiding the things that aren't meant to be seen, they're meant to protect the equipment, they're meant to bring things to the event, but they're not meant to be seen at the event, right? It was all of the load-in cases.
All the load-in.
All the road cases.
All the road.
All of the cases were stacked. They were neatly stacked, at least. I'll give them that.
Yeah, they weren't past the screen.
Right.
They were right under the screen.
But so you had screen, and then under the screen you had all of the cases.
Black and silver road cases.
Right. I think there were a couple other colors too.
Yeah, but
so
there's a way to hide those. It seemed like they had no place for them.
But there was. We even discussed it. They could have put it behind the stage.
They could have put it anywhere.
They could have put it in the hallway. You know, there's always like a hall that's not meant for people to go through, except people who work at the the hotel or the venue. There's always a place, and so you have to always look, and you're always looking. Is this the look that I want to present to the world? Because that's what you're doing.
No.
And that was not the look that you want to present to the world.
It's a big detail that was overlooked, because you can talk to the hotel staff.
Right, and ask them.
Because sometimes there's not places in the back because they're bringing in tables of food. They're bringing in tables of staging, anything.
And sometimes for safety reasons, you're not able to put more.
Block.
But they have fire codes and other things that you're not able to put that. So
put it further away.
So then the question came to, okay, we're going to take this scenario, what are the other options that could have happened that could have made that better, right? That's why I say details, big and small.
Right.
Sometimes we're like, oh, we got to look for the small details. We miss the big one that's staring us right in the face. Yeah. And everybody is looking at the screen.
Who is in the front?
The VIPs.
The VIPs.
Right.
Who might you sell something to? The VIP. Who's going to grab it first?
And it's almost
the VIPs.
You don't want to put trash at your event, and that's kind of what the cases are. They're not meant to be seen. They're meant to be put away, taken out.
Right.
And so a couple options. One, always get a screen that has the drape kit. That would have been the first thing. If they would have had a screen that had the drape kit. Now, drape kit.
And some people nowadays are getting away from dress kits because they want different colors and stuff like that. But if you're against a wall, maybe a black wall, if it's a wall, maybe even colored wall, whatever, it's better than a wall than what we saw.
So you have to look, okay, if we have a screen and it doesn't have the dress kit on it, it doesn't have the draping around and the skirt, right, the skirting on it, okay, so we can see from front to back through the bottom of the screen. So then if you know that, then you know that's not where we're going to be hiding anything because we are not able to put it behind.
Right.
Then the next option is, well, can we put it behind the stage?
Yes.
That would be the next option. Because a lot of times you have your stage and then you have some sort of backdrop, whether that's drape or whether that's, you could have another screen there. Sometimes it's, things that you've had made and customized for your backdrop and for your walls behind on the back of the stage. The other thing is there a way that you could have put it more towards the front of the room, maybe behind the tables?
Behind the tables, or I didn't have room before.
Right.
Also, there was nowhere for your cases. We put them on the side far wall and covered them with any drape, skirting, tablecloth, anything that you can have, and you want it dark as possible to be able to cover it.
The other thing is, the main thing is you don't want to have it somewhere that's a focal point.
No.
Right?
No.
And what are the main focal points of your event? The stage and the screens. Because everyone is sitting and looking this way, right? So if you can have it outside
of that
the peripheral
area.
view, on the sides or the back, if behind things isn't an option, if the hall, isn't an option, if you have to, though, exhaust your options, and you do need to you have to start planning for the what ifs. Okay, if this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do that.
Sometimes there's extra ballroom space for the staff while they're eating, conferences, meetings. They can go in there also.
Yep, and that's something that...
And you can order that extra space after the fact, knowing you don't have any room for your road cases. You can ask, is there a little room that I can put this?
And that brings up a good point too. When you are booking your event, or when you are having an event, having an area, having a space that you can let your speakers or your admin staff or your coaches or whomever you have on your team, a place where they can go so that they're not just right there in the back of the room. Maybe they do need to eat. Maybe, they do need to do these other things that you don't want them...
Yes, in the very makeup, anything.
Right. You just need a few minutes to just kind of decompress.
Yes.
I mean, if you're having an event that's a couple hours, that's different. If you're having an event that's
a day
2, 3, 4 days, you need a little decompression time too, where you're not constantly being bombarded by people.
Because your coaches also are working during the breaks.
Yep.
So they don't have time. So when do they eat? When the door is open, everybody's in the room, and then they get their food. Sometimes they don't leave the room. Right. Details. You don't want the food in the back table. You don't want anything on the back table, because soon they might have sales coming to the back table, or somebody with a question. And, excuse me. Give me a minute. Let me put this under the table. Let me
how can I help
question.
You now? Yeah. It's just, again,
with some
details.
ketchup hanging all down.
Or how about people on their phones, right?
Yeah.
It looks, maybe you're doing something that's super important on your phone. Maybe you're not. The people that are seeing you on your phone, they don't know what you're doing on your phone. It almost looks like you're not there, right? If you're in that room where people can see you, you should be focused on what's going on in the room. You should be paying attention to what the speaker is saying. You should be paying attention to to your attendees. Are they engaged? Are they asking questions? What's going on? Like, when you're in that environment, in that atmosphere, you're on, right? So that other room, the staff room, the green room, you can have all the different, whatever you want to call it, is the place where you can get on your phone and do some things. You can, take a nap if you need to. You can eat, drink, like all and using the bathroom. Normally you don't want to do that when all the attendees are there. You could have a separate area for that too. These are all things that you want to be thinking of and cognizant of when it comes to having your event.
Correct.
And looking at the big picture details, but also the smaller details, because those are the ones that sometimes, big and small, you have to be prepared for them.
Right. Just like some clients have a lot of videos. Are you going to have those lights off during videos? Maybe you don't have the staff for it, so that means ask somebody ahead of time before the event starts, the day before, for setup. They're about to show a video and we have nobody for lights. Yep. I mean, that's a detail. So lights are on during a video and the speaker is going to be upset. And again, we've talked about before, it's about knowing what to expect. What are the requirements of speakers?
Yes. What are you requiring? If you're the speaker, what do you want? How do you want to have it set up?
Yes.
Do you like the lights on? Do you like the lights off? Do you want
them dimmed a little?
Do you have audio that's going to be happening? Figuring out, and that's why we always talk about, you got to have your checklist.
Yep.
You've got to have team meetings, putting it together so that everyone's on the same page. Like, we are opening the doors 7 minutes before. That's when we're doing. That's a detail, right?
Yes.
Why are we doing that? Well, because we want to create the energy. We want to create...
It's going to build up outside, and they're waiting for those doors to open.
And so everyone can rush in and find their seat. You've got the music on. Like, that's setting the tone for the event, but that's a detail. And if you
letting the person know that they're about to open the doors, so music is playing.
Right.
Because if you don't tell the person who's running in everything, they're going to come in. They're going to come into a...
The other thing is, I would have that... See, what I like to do is, before the event happens, there is a team meeting. And team meeting means everybody's there. And we're walking through all of these details ahead of time. So I would let the AV person know, hey, 8 minutes before I need the music cranked, I need it ready to go, because we're opening, sync your watches.
Even approve the song that's going to be played. Is it high energy enough?
And is it the what type you want people walking into? So have your song selection for when doors are opening, when you're coming back from break. That's when you want people to...
Who's greeting? Who's saying hello as soon as those doors are open?
Right. And so letting everybody know, like, okay, AV person, AV tech, whomever that person is, I need this song queued up and ready to go starting at, 8 minutes before the event. Let's all make sure we've got the same time.
Yes.
We're good.
Synchronize your watches. Big time.
At 10 minutes before, you need all the people who are going to be the greeters ready to go, getting ready. Because then when you open the doors, you want everyone there high-fiving, welcoming, smiles. Like, you want all of that because that plays in to your event. It plays into the energy. It plays into the atmosphere. And again, details. And the details matter. And that's why having a checklist is imperative, because then you can having a team meeting where everyone's talking about these things.
Right. Who's covering what?
And it's also good to have a point person, like who is the person
in charge,
that is in charge of this, but also, like, for instance, if I was the person in charge of that event and I was doing my sweep of the room, like stage is good, lights are good,
tables aren't around, they're untaped, somebody can fall.
Look, stuff under the screen does not belong, so we would need to move that, right?
Yes.
Oh, this over here is not taken care of. You do that an hour before the
Ahead
event,
of time.
So, before the doors open, so you have time. Like, you've got to get into the room hours before the event starts to do all of these things, to make sure everyone's not...
At least 2.
Right, to make sure everyone's there, to make sure everyone understands what's going on. We've talked about before the little gremlins, that sometimes, like, everything's great that night before, but then you come down the morning of, or the next day, maybe you have a multi-day event, and things have changed. Just don't work. Or you had paperwork sitting on the back table, or a folder or something, it's not there anymore. Or just all kinds of different things, so you have to plan these things out. You have to have multiple copies of things. You have to make sure that everyone is on the same page, and you're looking at the details, big and small. Because, again, it's all about the experience. What experience are you creating for your attendees? What experience are you wanting people to be left with? And you want it to be the best experience possible. And that comes from looking at the details, making sure that everyone's on the same page, taking care of anything that might come up, and being flexible when things do come up.
Right. And also, having your last event, you did have that team meeting to find out what was good, what worked, and what didn't work. So you already have those notes for your next event to implement the new things.
Right, because at the end of every event, you should have an after-action review where all of your team gets together and you guys talk about what went well. Like, what are the things?
How can we make it better?
And you actually list the stuff off, like what went well and what could be better or more improved. Because you always want to be, like we talked, growing, changing, improving, getting other people's inputs. Everyone has a different perspective of how they're coming at the event.
Right. And not the blame game. Well, you didn't do this one for this event, and the nitpicking little petty things.
And we leave that at the door.
You didn't do that one.
It's not about pointing fingers and accusing. It's about, okay,
working as a team. From
your perspective, what went well? And we go around and we'll talk about, and then from your perspective, what could have been better or more improved?
Yes,
right?
And go around the table.
Yep. Or the room, or wherever you're having your meeting, and you get everyone's perspective. You get everybody to weigh in, because it is a collective group. We all, and you're one person from one point of view, and someone else over here had a different perspective of what they were dealing with, or maybe they had conversations with different people at the event. So it's all about talking, figuring out, and then the most important thing is, once you have that information, you've gathered these details, you're not going to just leave it on the paper. It's like, you need to take that back and say, okay, you know what?
Way before the event.
This is something.
Months
this is something that we can improve on.
Yes.
This is something that we can implement at our next event. Oh, I never thought of that. Yes. Let's work on this.
And then have ideas.
And so then you have more things to go off of, to change, to implement for the next one. And then the same thing, the next event, you do the exact same thing.
That same person's going to change the batteries for the speaker's clicker right before the event, so they're able to use their clicker. That's a small detail, but very important.
Or, next time we're gonna, let the venue know that we don't want drinks brought in, or a changeover or water done.
What happens? They have their cart
clink,
and they clanking, or they bring in a 5-gallon jug and they switch it out. What's going to happen? They dump the jug, boom, and everybody turns around. And
it's a distraction, and you want to eliminate the distraction, and so you can put that into your BEO next time. That we want this to occur during breaks.
Yes.
And that's why having a schedule is important, and then staying on that schedule, because you're letting the hotel or the venue know when to do these things, and they will be Johnny on the spot taking care of that in most places if you've picked a good venue, because then they want to get in and they want to service and do what you and then get back out.
Right, they're waiting.
They are.
For you to come out.
And if you have in your BEO that don't come in until the doors are open and then we're on break. Banquet event order. So every time you have an event, you normally get what they call a BEO, which is a banquet event order, and it's going to have everything. Like it's going to say, are you set up for theater, classroom, or rounds, or how many are you set for? And then what time?
Diagram of the room also.
Right. What time are you starting? What time are you ending? What time do you have your morning break? Your lunch, your afternoon break.
Yes.
What are they supposed to be doing? Is it just a refresh? Do you have some sort of F&B, food and beverage, that they're supposed to be taking care of?
Coffee and cookies during break.
So you have all that, and that's all outlined. And so that is what your venue, that is their roadmap. That's what they're going off of.
Right.
So you need to make sure that you're accurate on your times. And if leading up to the event something has changed, let them know that.
And the
so
person
they can
in charge will let them know, because you're never going to go on break on time. You're never going to go on lunch break on time. So if you do have food or something they're waiting for, just say they have a ballroom next door for all the food, they're there waiting for you. You can let them know they're going to be 15 minutes late.
I'm actually going to
every event.
I'm gonna say that you should be on time.
Yes.
So that's something that if you're not on time, I'm not talking like down to the second, but we're talking, for lunch, five minutes or so, give or take. That's one thing. If you're not, then we need to address that and figure out why not. How can we change this so that we can stick to it? Do we have a long, winded speaker who just likes to continue to go and go and go and go and go?
It's going to be 5 to 15 minutes late.
If you notice that, then give yourself some buffer room to say, you know what, we're not going to break at 12:30. It's going to be 12:45 before we go to lunch.
Yes.
Right? So if you know that, and maybe that's something at your after action review that you saw, look, we're continually running what we think is 15 minutes late. So if you know that for your next one, start buffering yourself a little bit.
Well, each day you can do it also.
So that you can
change it.
Stay on track, right? Because, some speakers love to just talk and talk and talk and give and give and give, or they open it up.
Or they want to fit questions in.
They open it up for Q&A, and so that can continually go. But that's also another detail that you have to let your speaker know, like, look, we have a timeline that we need to stick to.
Yes.
So how much time are you going to want for this time slot? How much time are we going to need? And we got to stick with that. You got to give them a countdown timer and let them know there's a reason that we have these. And if you just, if you're the speaker, know that you need to stick within this.
Yes.
If you haven't, spoken a lot, or this is new, or you're not, then you're going to have to kind of stick with the guideline. And that's why there's bumpers though, right? I like to think of a schedule as your bumper. You stay in the lane. So if you know that your speaking slot, you start at 9 and you have from 9 to 9:45, that's your slot. If you have from 9 to 10:30, that's your slot. And you've got to stay within the rails. You know what I mean? Like that is your slot. Stick within it, because then there's something else that's happening at the next one, or something else happening at the next one, and it helps to keep the event moving.
Just give yourself enough time. Just like sometimes the breaks are going to go a little longer because everybody is not in the room. So that's a good time to ask questions. Have questions while people are coming in the room.
And that's also a detail of you got to train your attendees on what to expect.
Yes.
And so, housekeeping when you open up the event is letting them know when we say we're back at a certain time, we are going to start whether your butt is in the seat or not.
Yeah.
We are going to move forward. And so I need you guys, when we say we have a lunch between this time and this time, or you have 15 minutes or 20 minutes for your break, put the time up on the screen. And as soon as it gets down to
have a timer.
Time's done, then you move forward, because you're respecting the time of the people who are there on time.
Yes. For the Starbucks people in line, there's always going to be a long line, and they wait until that line's done for them to bring in their coffee.
Right. And I always like to look at it as we're not rewarding the people who don't show up on time. We're rewarding the people who do. We were just having a discussion with our son the other day of just because certain people act a certain way does not mean that you throw the whole group into that. It's like if the people who are doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is back at a time, are sitting there and waiting on, we're here, we hurried, we rushed, we got back, we did what we needed to do, and we're back in our seat.
And you got that extra information.
But now we're sitting here waiting because everyone's not back. Then next time they're going to start taking more of their time. Versus, oh, I'm here. Everyone's not here. Guess what? This is a great time for me to get more information because I kept the agreement, which was 20 minutes, 15 minutes, hour and a half, whatever that is.
Get your
and so
in.
Reward them for that. And then when people who are coming in the room and trickling in the room see that things are already going on, they're like, well, I missed something. I better hurry up next time and get myself back at the proper time. Now, this is all to say, I mean, things happen, right? So you don't have to be like a stickler with it, but you do need to have some, you know, hard and fast rules of this is what's happening. I mean, if something major happened outside, or, you know, we've had it before where the street got closed for whatever reason. People were on the other side and they weren't able to get back to the other side because they closed it down for people. Okay, like things happen, right? There's also, you know, you have an event starting, let's say it starts at 8. People are coming, and then you hear, oh, you know what, there was a big accident down the road.
That happens often.
Right down the road, and people have been backed up for, you know, an hour or so. Is that, you know, they were going to be there early. So what can you do? And again, it's about planning for these things. So if you don't want to kick off your whole event and have people miss it, then what could you do, right? What
you have to have a plan already, just in case there's an emergency.
Right. Because things like this happen, and so if you're not planning, then you're not. And even though you have a timeline that you want to stick to, time and circumstances, things happen, things change. You got to roll with it.
Networking time.
You could open it up for Q&A. Maybe you have small groups. Maybe I mean, there's all these different things that you can work on. But if you don't have it planned out on the front end, or know what you're working with, it's hard to move. And so, while it comes back to everything is about the details, big and small, you also need to know what is expected of you, what is expected of your attendees, and what do you expect from everyone else around you. And that brings back to the details as well, because everyone's on the same page.
And one of the clients that we have, when they start, they go through their checklist of what you're going to expect, what they need from the attendees, and so on. About phones and different things like that.
And that's right. At the beginning
of helps a lot.
At the beginning of the event, have your, you know, housekeeping or whatever you want to call it, that you go up on stage and you welcome everyone to the event, but then you're going to let them know, hey, we need to put our phones on silence. We are going to have breaks of this time.
You know,
we're
so ending about this time.
So people can plan, right? You don't need to give them an itemized list. And that's another thing. I would suggest not giving out your schedule to the attendees. Because
they're going to hold you to it. They're going to be upset. These are all things that any changes, they're going to be upset.
And sometimes, you know, things change, right? And you can change things as
deviate from it.
As the person who's in charge of the event, or as the speaker, you can change things around. But if your attendees know, then they're going to be like, wait, that was changed. Versus they don't know what's coming next. You can change it, mix it, match it, and it doesn't matter. Maybe you have
put another speaker in front of somebody else.
We've had it
somebody's running late.
Multiple speakers, and they had a flight that didn't come in when it was supposed to. So we had to, you got to switch times around. It happens, right? So do not give a schedule out to your attendees. Another thing they'll do, they're like, well, I want to learn about this. Don't want to learn about that. I want to learn about this. And so then they'll be in the room.
They're going to leave about this time, and this time.
I'm like, oh, I'll come back for that one, but I don't really care about that topic or that speaker. It's like, no.
Or even topic. If you go over, don't even express the topics you're going to go over.
You could, at the beginning of the event, you can say, these are the things we're going to cover.
Right.
But not when.
Timed out.
When that's going to happen.
Right.
Correct.
Just about how cold it is in the room. You know how many times people come up and they're complaining it's too cold? Bring a coat. That's what they're told.
And that should be in your pre-event communication, right? Because some people fly in, maybe they don't have a coat. So if you tell them, look,
bring a blanket.
We're going to keep it chilly. It keeps you focused and alert. It helps the speaker
you don't fall asleep.
Have great energy. You know, when you get a lot of people in the room, it starts getting warm. you don't want a warm learning environment. So
No.
these are all things, and these are things that we discuss all the time, right? And because we've been doing this for eons, it seems like, there's things that we don't even think about anymore, and it just is, right?
Yes.
And sitting down though and discussing all of these little details, that's why we love, doing the show, because there's so much things and information that
about.
We know, but it's like, you know what? A lot of people don't know this stuff. And
no.
It's great to be able to start building a community of, speakers and coaches and entrepreneurs who are wanting to get more into the event space, or wanting to go further in that direction, or expand that out. And there's a whole world of possibilities.
The details ahead of time, what's going to happen beforehand, the middle, and even after the event. There's a lot of things you have to do after.
There are, and we discussed that in more detail in some of the the other podcasts or shows that we have, different things that we have. So if you're wanting to get more information and go more in detail, make sure you jump over and look at some of the other shows that we have, some of the other content. Follow us on social media, because we do have a lot of information that we're constantly putting out there, and we love hearing from you guys. So if you
don't hesitate to ask any questions.
If you have questions, we're going to start having Q&As that we're doing. We're going to start doing more lives on social media too. So those are all things, but we want you guys to interact, because we want to hear from you. We want to know
what you're thinking, how many, what kind of questions you have, what kind of details.
What challenges are you having? How can we help you?
We'll be there right
we want to be a resource, for you, and that's what we're here for. So make sure you tune into the next show. We're going to start putting these out consistently.
Yes.
So make sure that wherever you're watching or listening to this from, make sure you subscribe, and that way you can be notified when the next episode comes out. And until then, our favorite thing to remind you guys of is that it only takes an instant to make an impact. Have an awesome day.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.